Hello everyone, today we're working on a 2018 GMC Sierra Denali. We're doing a differential fluid change on this. We're changing out the oils in the differential and also the transfer case. And they go through a break-in period in that first 15 to 25,000 miles. This truck has about 27,000 miles on it. And the first break-in process, you give off a lot of fine metal in that first 15 to 25,000 miles. So that's the reason we're trying to get that oil out and get fresh oil in so that we can reduce the amount of wear going on in the bearings. Now, the differentials do not have a spin-on type filter. The only filter they have is a magnet, okay? So the stronger that magnet is, the more metal it pulls out of the oil to keep it from going through and damaging the bearings over and over again. This here is a fill plug, and they also have a magnetic drain plug. But this is what they come with from the factory. This is a GM that you'd find on GM plug that you'd find on the 3/4 ton and 1 ton pickups. They come from the factory with a gray magnet, and those gray magnets are very limited in strength. And I'll give you some example here of the strength of it. I got a little 1/4-inch bolt here, and it'll pick it up. It doesn't weigh much, but if you shake it a little bit, off it goes. It doesn't have a whole lot of holding power. Okay. Now I'm also a dealer for gold plug magnetic drain plugs. They use neodymium magnets, which are the strongest magnets known to man. And the direct replacement for this plug is this one right here. I'll show you the difference in strength. Go to this smaller bolt here. It's a little 3/4-inch bolt, and quite a bit of power there. I can try and shake it off, but it don't really want to come off. We'll try this bigger bolt here. This is about a 1-inch bolt. And again, the amount of strength is phenomenal. What it boils down to is how much protection do you want for the bearings in your differential. The stronger that magnet is, the more metal it's going to pull out of that oil to protect your bearings and give you longer differential life. So it kind of gives you some idea of the strength of these magnets. And I've also got for the Duramax, this is what they come with from the factory on the engine oil drain plug. Okay, we've got a direct replacement for that. And that's the exact same one that we use in the Allison for the drain plug on the Allison transmission as well. And this allows you to get in there and monitor, you know, if there's wear going on inside that engine, it'll be caught up. Any metal, anything that'll stick to that magnet, you can monitor it then. Okay, and again, the strength of it is phenomenal. Oh, lost it there. Try her again. There she comes. Okay, it gives you some idea of the strength, but it allows you to monitor what's going on inside that transmission, what's going on inside that engine. So I have those available as well. Now, the wear we're talking about in those differential bearings, I can give you an example here. I've got a brand new bearing, and brand new bearing is polished nicely, very hard surface. This is the outer race, and you have your rolling elements, and then you have the inner race. They all fit together nicely here. And the oil is what lubricates and prevents the wear. So if you have an oil that's full of that fine metal, what ends up happening is it goes through those rolling elements and it'll bruise the surface of that bearing and also the surface of that rolling element and the inner race. And here's an example of one that I had replaced in a differential. And if you look at it here, you can see the bruising. As that fine metal goes through that bearing, what it ends up doing is bruising it. When you get sufficient bruising, then it begins to flake. And this side here, you can see it's flaked. And that's where the metal starts coming out of the bearing. And that's where you start to hear a lot of noise, and that's where you're headed for an overhaul. And this here is the inner race. You can see the flaking on that as well. And then this here would be your rolling elements, your rollers. You can see the flaking on those as well. Okay, so the magnet is the first line of defense for filtration on your gearbox. The other half of the equation is the lubricant itself. And what we'll be using today is the AMSOIL Severe Gear 75W90 in these differentials on this GMC. It's a chemically engineered synthetic, and it resists thermal runaway like no other. So once you do the initial oil change, you can change this oil about every 100,000 miles, and this will give you much, much longer differential life. And another thing that AMSOIL has just come out with, they've come out with this Easy Pack. Now this Easy Pack allows you to get into areas to fill those differentials because there's getting to be more and more things in the way. If you have a bottle, it's hard to get that bottle, you know, maneuvered to where you need it. Where this here is very flexible. you can squeeze it like a toothpaste tube and get that oil in where you need to go. So Amsoil has that in the marine gear lube. They have it in the 75 140 and also the 75 W90. Now another thing is your truck might have a posi-track or limited slip differential. And if you're unsure, you can take the last 8 digits of your truck's VIN number, get a hold of your local GM dealer, and they should be able to tell you if you have a limited slip differential. Now, this here slip lock is to help prevent chatter as you go around corners as that limited slip is engaging and disengaging. Amsoil has a lot of these additives in the oil already, so if you want to, you can put just the fluid in. If you experience chatter, you can always add this later, or if you want to up front, just go ahead and put a bottle of the slip lock in. So I've also got a couple technical service bulletins that talk about the break-in period on these differentials and give you some examples of ones that were changed and not changed. I'm going to share those with you in this video as well. So we're going to go ahead and get started with this, and we'll be back with you. Okay, they've simplified draining these differentials. They never used to have a drain plug on these. So this makes it a lot easier. We've got a drain plug here, we've got a fill plug here. If any of you have the older trucks that does not have a drain plug, then this cover will have to be removed. And I've got videos out there showing differential service, and refer to those because I have sealant also, sealant that's Driveline fluid resistant. It will handle the synthetics. So if you do have an older one, refer to my other videos that I have out there on differential service. But on this one here, it's pretty straightforward. We're going to pop the 3/8 ratchet, and we're going to pop the drain plug out, capture it in the drain pan. Okay, and again, you can see the stuff. It don't look all that great. It's kind of dark. And if you look at the magnet here, we've got quite a bit of fine metal on that from that break-in process. Okay, and then the fill plug is also going to have a magnet on it. Before I drain this out, I take it out and get the fluid warmed up, get it up to temperature, and this fluid's nice and warm. But again, you can see the wear metals from that break-in period. Again, 27,000 miles on this vehicle. So that's the metal I'm talking about. And if you take this oil out into the light, into the sunlight, it's going to look like metal flake paint. And you can't really see it in here, it's just a little too dark, but if you take that fluid out in the sun, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. And that's the fine metal we're talking about as far as damaging the bearings. So we're going to let that one drain. We'll go up and do the same to the front one because it's got a drain and a fill plug also. So we'll be back with you. Okay, we're in the front of the truck. The skid plate here is going to have to come off. There's 4 bolts or 15mm head. Okay, that gets us at the differential. And again, we got a drain plug and we got a fill plug. So we're going to go ahead and take out that drain plug and see what the oil looks like. That fluid don't look as bad, but again, we've got a lot of wear metals. You can see on that magnet there's a lot of goo on there. Okay. We'll go ahead and take out that fill plug as well. Okay, you can see the wear metals on that as well. The fuzz from the break-in. Now the front differential doesn't get used near as much as the rear, so you're not going to have quite as much wear. But nonetheless, you still need to get that fluid changed and get those magnets cleaned up.
Go.
Okay, we're ready to put these plugs in. And on this front differential, we're going to put 2 of these gold plugs. One in the drain and one in the fill because they're both the same. And we put this in, we're going to torque it to 24 foot-pounds, which is 288 inch-pounds. Okay. And we're going to go ahead and fill it and put the front gold plug in. And we're going to go back and do the back, and we'll be back with you. Okay, we've let this back one drain, and what I'm going to do is flush out this differential with some brake clean. And I'm going to hang on to the straw because sometimes they like to shoot off and into the differential, and that means you'd have to take the cover off to get it. So basically just spray around as much as you can and flush off as much of that old broken down fluid as you can. Spray the inside of that housing. That's probably about good. So what we'll do now is just let that drain out as much of that brake clean fluid as we can. And when it's all done draining, then we'll go ahead and put the fill plug in and fill it up. Now the thing too with that gold plug, the only place where that's going to fit is on your fill side, because this is a recess right here. The original one had a 3/8 square head on it, and you can get in there and tighten it up. So you're going to have to reuse that bottom plug. The gold plug is going to have to go up here on the fill side. Okay, because I'll show you here. You can get up there and tighten it up with your fingers, but you can't get a socket on it because it's just too close to tolerance. It's way too close. It gets up far enough and you just can't. There's no way you can tighten it because it's almost flush. So you're going to have to put the gold plug, if you want to put it on the fill. And the way that fluid moves around in there, it'll be very effective on that fill plug just as well. So you'll have to clean up one of these original plugs for the bottom. Clean off the scum and the fuzz. And what I use there is either brake clean or some ether, and get them good and clean. Spray them off. And we'll reuse that bottom one, and then we'll fill this differential housing up and put the gold plug in the top. The next thing we'll go to is the transfer case. Okay, this fluid right here is the brand new AMSOIL Severe Gear. Just wanted to show you a quick comparison. This one right here is the front differential. We'll take a little bit of that out and you can kind of see what it looks like compared to it. Okay, and then we're going to take a little bit out of the back diff. Kind of show you what that looks like. There you go. Gives you some idea. Like I say, the back diff gets used 100% of the time, the front diff doesn't, so that kind of tells the tale on the use of it and why the different color. But it was time to change it, and quite a bit of metal in it. That gives you some idea. We're going to move on to the transfer case. Okay, we're at the transfer case. Right here's the drain plug. Fill plug is right here. This should hold 3.2 pints, so just over 1.5 quarts. And whenever I do a transfer case, I always take out the top plug first, because if the seal between the transmission and the transfer case is leaking, the fluid is going to get pushed into the transfer case and you'll have excess fluid coming out at you. So it's a good indication if you've got any problems, especially on a higher mileage vehicle. This is an 18mm socket we're using. The fluid we'll be using in this transfer case is the AMSOIL automatic transmission fluid, low viscosity. That's what this calls for. Let's see if we can see that fluid a little better. Here we go. As you can see in that fluid, it's a little dark. And you can also see on the magnet that break-in metal I was talking about. Okay. So the bottom one has a magnet on, the fill plug does not. I'm going to put a gold plug in that top one so I can maximize the amount of magnet that I have in that transfer case just to pick up more metal. So I do have a gold plug for those as well. So we're going to clean this bottom magnet off, put that back in, we'll let this drain out. But you can see, again, 27,000 miles, and that fluid, I mean, it's got a little bit of red to it, but it's getting broke down. So it's time to change it. Okay, here's a shot of that transfer case drain plug and the metal that's on it, that break-in metal. And what I'm going to do is just get as much of it off with a cloth as I can. And once I get that done, I'm going to take some starting fluid or ether, make sure there's no flames or sparks around. I'm going to spray it. Hit it with some compressed air and away we go. Good to go. So there we go. Okay, this here is the original drain plug. It's got a magnet on from the factory. This is the fill plug, and there's no magnet on that. So what we're going to do, we're going to put a gold plug in,
It's 3/8 pipe thread. I put a little bit of pipe dope on the outside because it seals on the taper of the threads. And we'll go ahead and put in that drain plug. And again, we're putting in automatic transmission fluid. And these plugs are going to get torqued to right around 10 to 12 foot-pounds. And you don't want to over-torque them because you can crack the case. So again, 10 to 12 foot-pounds is plenty. And then we're going to fill it up until it comes out of the fill plug, and then we'll put the fill plug in and we'll be done. So just wanted to show you that.
Okay, here's some brand new transmission fluid that we put in that transfer case, and here's some of the old stuff we took out. I'll show you the difference here a little bit. Again, we're looking at about 27,000 miles from new. So gives you some idea, and there's quite a bit of metal flake in there. As you stir it around, you can see it. So, alright, thanks for watching my video.
Thank you for watching my video. Be sure to check out my other videos and subscribe to my channel at youtube.com/c/DonsOil. I'd like to introduce you to Amsoil Synthetic Lubricants. We have the most complete line of synthetic lubricants on the market that offer you greatly reduced wear, extended drain intervals, longer equipment life. You can check that out at my website, donsoil.com. I also have a website for looking up fluid capacities. It's fluidcapacity.com. You can go there and print off the capacity of your engine oil, cooling system, transmission, transfer case, differentials. Be sure to like us on Facebook at facebook.com/DonSyntheticLubes. Thank you and have a great day.